All right. Good afternoon, everybody. We're gonna go ahead and get started. My name is Jason Nicosia, and I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing over here at Emerge. I just want to welcome everybody to our webinar on creating versus curating content on the web. And I'm happy to have a lot of our current clients I see on here. Thanks you guys for joining, and a lot of additional guests as well. So I'm really excited to have all you guys on here today, especially because we have Megan Hargroder as our guest presenter. Megan is a close friend of mine, and I don't use this word lightly, but a guru of social media and content marketing. So I'm really excited to have her on the horn today. Megan is the CEO of a company over here in New Orleans called Conversations Inc., where she focuses on brand and social media and consulting, content consulting for all of her customers, both in Louisiana and all over the country. So Megan, thank you so much for joining us, and I'll let you take it away from here.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. If anybody can't hear us, just go ahead and post something up in the questions there. And don't worry, also, we'll have time for questions at the very end. So if you want to hold your questions, we'll take about 10 minutes for questions at the very end.
All right, so I'll go ahead and get started. We're going to be talking about creating versus curating content for social media, your blog, and your website, and why it's so important to have a blend of both creation and curation within your content strategy. So just to get started, I'm going to go over what we mean by content. So there's a lot of different types of content. That can be blog posts, your emails that you send out, Facebook posts, posts on Twitter, photos, videos, anything that's a piece of information or a visual thing that you put out through your channels is considered content. So there's a problem. And that problem is that even though you're here because you understand that it's important to put out relevant, regular, consistent content across your social media channels, you know that already. It's hard. It's hard to stay on top of that whenever you're managing a business and also a social presence at the same time. It takes a lot of work to get it right. It takes a lot of work to make sure it stays consistent, and you have another job. But it is important. It can generate new leads. And so in the words of Sweet Brown, ain't nobody got time for that, but I'm going to tell you how you can have time to manage that effectively. So the solution, we're going to maximize the exposure of the original created content that you create while utilizing relevant curated content to save time and offer valuable information to your audience. So the ultimate goal is always to get the maximum output with the minimum input. So you want to provide value, but you don't want it to suck up all of your time. So let's talk about the difference between creation and curation. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the terms, you already know what it is. When you create content, that's when you actually write something yourself. You take a photo, you make a video. Typical forms of content creation include when you create a website, a blog, you take a photo, you leave a comment on something else that is your own idea and not something that you sourced from somewhere else. Basically, it's the word, anything that you've created. Whereas curation is more of the process of collecting, organizing, and displaying relevant information that came from somewhere else, something that you did not actually create, something that you found and then you push back out. It's sharing. So, for example, most people's Pinterest accounts are 100% curated. A lot of people will simply repin things, pictures, that are already in their Pinterest feed. You do have the option of installing the little Pinterest button on your toolbar, and when you're on an external site, you can pin something from there to Pinterest, and some people do that, but typically people will only repin from within their feed. So a lot of the content on Pinterest is just cyclical, and it just keeps going around because it's curated by each individual person to their boards. Blogs, on the other hand, tend to be created. blogs aren't as often syndicated as other content. Blogs are often unique and new and written by the person for the blog. And this image is just, it's one of my favorite blogs. If you've never heard of it, it's called The Middle Finger Project. And it's great, like, business, life advice for entrepreneurs and small startups, and it's just a lot of fun to read. So Facebook and Twitter are often a blend of both curated and created content. So the top left is an example of something that's created. I said, want more clients? Start growing your email list, and here's how I did it. And then there's a link to a blog. The blog post is from my website, and it's an original blog post that I wrote about how I grew an email list and how that email list generated more clients. On the other hand, the bottom to the right is a curated post. Jason shared a link about the webinar that we are having right now, and I shared that onto my page, meaning I curated that content. Both are very, very valuable pieces of content, and both contribute to the whole of the information that's displayed on my page. So that's going to be a recurring theme that we'll talk about, is how it's so important to have both types of content present throughout your social media presence. So this is a similar example from Twitter. A created post, I asked, does anyone know of any web mobile app developer meetup groups in NOLA? So this is an example of a piece of created content that's also local. And I think you should be thinking in those terms whenever you're creating content, is that you want something that's very timely, and you also want something that's speaking to your audience. So if that's a local audience, talk about things that are going on locally. The bottom example is something that I curated, which means I just retweeted this. And it was an article about how the blogging boom standouts and how they got there. So interesting article and something that I wanted to share with my audience. Therefore, I curated that post. So there's a lot of pros and cons of both of those, and we're going to go through them. The pros of creation is that the content that you post, the blog that you write, Facebook post, it's yours. You own it. You'll be able to directly demonstrate your business's knowledge, expertise, and experience. And that content that you've created, especially blog posts, can be optimized better for search. And this will give your business better search engine rankings, also known as SEO. SEO is just a fancy term for how much does Google love you. Whenever someone types in real estate agent, Atlanta, if you do that, then you want to pop up all the way to the top. So you want to optimize SEO on your website. Another thing is that your content can work towards addressing your business's unique goals and objectives. So if you've created it, it's completely tailored towards what you want to say and what your business does. And then, of course, the cons of creating content is it's time-consuming. If you're doing photo or video content, you're having to outsource some of that creation, it can get extremely expensive. And once you start creating original content, your audience is going to expect you to do that regularly. It can be hard to commit to. So curation. There's a lot of pros of curation. One of them is content is everywhere. Everyone's blogging. Everyone's posting relevant article links that you can then share or post or tweet out. It's not time-consuming to curate content, especially within, if you're using the eMerge dashboard, you've already got that content feed specific to your interests, so you can just pull it and post it. You can also post with greater regularity because you do have access to more and it takes less time. And another thing that I feel like isn't talked about enough with content curation is that sharing is inherently social, right? And it's kind of like the wingman effect, where when you do something nice for someone else, such as retweet something helpful for them, repost something and give them a shout out, they're going to want to do that back for you. So you're giving someone who's posted something access to your audience, and then in turn they're going to likely do the same for you. So be thinking about that whenever you're sharing other people's content and making sure to kind of reference the source or reference the person's name in that, because it's not just about giving them credit for what they've done. It's about letting them know, giving them an alert that you find what they've done valuable and you're sharing it with your audience as well. Some of the cons of curation is that it's not as demonstrative of your capabilities or expertise because you're featuring someone else's content. You want to be careful that you're not promoting your competition. And a lot of times you'll notice that the engagement with curated content is going to be lower than the engagement with content you've created. And that's because it's harder to engage with the type of content that's just not coming from you, especially if you have personal relationships with your clients or your consumers and they know your voice and they want your voice, they want to hear you say something. It can come off as not as genuine if you're just constantly posting curated content. So I would say that the major differentiating factors between the two is that your created content is going to tend to be more topical, local, and engaging, whereas your curated content will tend to be more informational, evergreen, and reusable. So the secret sauce is going to be a blend of both. You want to create some of your content, you want to curate some of your content, keep it social, and you want to listen. So that's something that we are not going to talk about so much, but I think is so important. And that's listening to what people are saying, reading the comments, commenting back to people, and paying attention to what people are really gravitating towards, which posts are getting the most likes. Pay attention to that and then post more of that kind of post. See what time, is there a certain time that you're posting that gets the most interactions? Post more at that time. Spend a little bit of time gauging which things you're doing that are really, really effective, and that's going to pay you back in the long run because you stop doing what's ineffective. You stop posting when no one's listening, and you end up saving a lot of time in the long run. So the thing that creating and curating content have in common is relevance. You want to know who your audience is, what they're interested, and what you want to say, and find that space in between to give them relevant information that's getting your message across. It's attending to their needs and their questions, answering those for them, and providing really informative content that they actually care about. And then the next step is tying it all together. So managing Facebook, managing Twitter, managing email lists, like you can't even say it all without running out of breath, right? It's a lot to do, and you have to stay very, very organized. So this is a screenshot of the eMerge dashboard that shows you kind of how clean everything is, how you can manage everything from one hub so you don't have to have a million tabs open with all of these things. And you can also schedule things out in advance, so you don't have to say, like, well, if I create content, I have to commit to getting on Facebook once a day. No, you totally don't. You could commit to sitting down in your dashboard every Monday for an hour and scheduling out some different content posts, both created and curated content, scheduling them out to go out throughout the week. You can add photos, you can add links, you can add anything. And then for the rest of the week, you don't really have to touch your social media. You need to monitor it. You still need to pay attention. I would set up alerts on your phone because you want to know when people are asking questions and saying things that require a response from you. But for the most part, just the content part of it, you can set it and forget it and get about your job. And some of the benefits that a lot of people on this call are already using eMerge, so you're already enjoying, is a lot of the content is already created for you. You have access to add your own comments to the pre-curated content, but and you should, but you already have, you get to cut out the step of, oh, let me create an RSS feed, or let me go to these 10 different blogs to find posts that are relevant to my audience. You already have that within your system. So you've got all this extra time, so you can use that extra time to create things. So you can also use that dashboard to publish content to your blog, your Facebook, your Twitter page from the same thing. And you can schedule content in advance when you're busy, which is what we talked about earlier. Consistency is the key to all of this. If you can only post twice a week, that's fine. Post twice a week, but don't go 2 weeks without posting anything. That gets into Facebook Edge Rank and how, Facebook sees that you haven't posted in a really long time and then you post something. Same thing is like with posting too much. You don't want to post 9 things in the same hour and then not post anything for the rest of the week. One, it's aggravating. For anyone who's looking at that, they're like, oh, shut up, you're crowding up my whole feed. I just want to look at a bunch of different things, not things from you. And then you'll get unfollowed a lot of times. People will unlike your page because they think you're being spammy. And then you only have that short window of time that you posted a bunch of stuff to catch people's attention. So it's important to space it out and spread it out and use scheduling tools to where your content is going out consistently. And here are some tips that I have just for getting the most out of your content. If you have a blog that you've either written or curated, you take that, you post it, then from that post on your website or your blog, you take that, you post it to Facebook, you post it to Twitter, post it to LinkedIn, post it to anywhere socially that could link back to your website so that you can bring people back to your website. The next part of that is, if that post is evergreen and it's still relevant in 3 months, post it again, because you're going to have new people in your audience. You're going to have people who didn't read it the first time. You're going to have people who loved it but forgot about it, or was just excited to see the refresher and will reread it again. If you have good content and it's still relevant, reuse it. And the other thing that I really like to do when I have such as an important Facebook post is to use the promoted post option in Facebook to give you an extra boost. And that kind of looks like this. At the bottom of a post, you'll see, if you're an admin on the page, you'll see that little thing that says Boost Post. So if you click the arrow, you'll get a little pop-out, and it'll say, based on how many dollars you want to spend, how many people you will reach from a set audience. So for example, with a $30 budget, Facebook's ensuring me that I'm going to get between 4,200 and 7,800 impressions. It will be people who like my page, but also people who are friends of people who like my page. So I get kind of an exponential reach there, and I have the chance to reach a new audience. And look, we're already at the end. This was so efficient. So this is my website. It's conversations.be. And if you go here, on the front page, you can sign up for, I call it Build Your Own Bulletproof Social Media Strategy Guide. So it's a free 50-page kind of worksheet style thing where you can evaluate what you're doing now and kind of take some of the principles and apply them to your business to make your social media plan stronger. So I would definitely recommend you download that, check it out, and if you need any more help, you can contact me. Jason?
All right. Thanks so much, Megan. Really appreciate it, and definitely some great little nuggets in that presentation. Guys, by the way, in case you didn't get here until after the presentation had already started, or you want to share this with someone, we're going to send a screen share of this entire presentation to each of you after, so you'll have that if you want to come back and revisit some of these points. We've got just a couple of more minutes now. If anybody has some questions for Megan, if you want to just type them in the question section right there. Megan, if you have like 5 or 10 more minutes, we'd love to get a few of those questions.